Welcome to another edition of the Growth Seekers Leadership Mastermind, where we talk all things leadership. And yeah, it's really curious about leadership because we talk about leadership as the ability to, or an interaction where influence happens, where we influence ourselves to take the actions that we need to take to have the lives that we want, and then to be able to inspire others to take actions and influence others to take the actions that they need to take in order to win. Or actually, it's funny. I think a little Freudian slip because that's what we're going to be talking about. It's winning, right? And it's always be winning, right? So we talk about winning, and the topic today in leadership is that our relationship with competitiveness, our relationship with our definition of what we believe winning is. And it's interesting because winning could also be really tied into success, right? Because if we're successful, then we're winning. If we're not successful, we're not winning. And what's really interesting is that our relationship with that concept can be a great inspiration for productivity, for creativity, for action. And I know that quite often we all want to talk about what success is, but I think because we are having this human experience of cause and effect, right? And we're not our minds, we're not our feelings, but our minds and feelings create these emotions. And so, yeah, it's really important because winning creates certain emotions as well. And so our emotions will dictate the choices that we make. So if we can have a clear definition of winning would be in our lives, which would be tied into the success, what success means to us, then the next question is what's our relationship with being competitiveness, right? And what does being competitive actually mean, right? So those are some of the things I want to just set on the table here. And I know that this was a topic that was introduced by my co-facilitator, Marc Santos here. So I wanted to see if you wanted to add some more to the table.
Yeah, I I think it's worth asking yourself and the people that you're working with what game they're playing, right? Are you playing a finite game like hockey, for example, Walt, when you're coaching somebody in hockey or some other sport where there's a clear beginning and a clear end, fixed rules, fixed player, and everybody knows at the end of the year whoever holds up the Stanley Cup is a winner, right? And so it's very clear what you have to do to get to the Stanley Cup. You just have to be the best player. You have to practice. You have to be dedicated. It's like the Olympics or any other sport. It's very fixed and finite, right? Whereas sort of life is a completely different game. It's an infinite game and it has a completely different set of rules. And so how do you I think we're all playing an infinite game, but we're also playing fixed games as well, right? So, and then the other thing I want to just quickly table, just to put some more food for thought into the on out there for you all to consider is are you operating from a position of fear? Or are you operating from a position of excitement? Are you afraid to win because that means somebody else has to lose? Or can we all win without having participation trophies? Is it possible to compete and yet have winners and losers up, and I think that's an obvious, but it sort of challenges us all to be the best versions of ourselves. And I just think that I've been reflecting on this a lot this week. It's very, very easy to take the victim role and not want to compete to hurt other people's feelings, but is it really helping them? And so anyways, that's what I want to put on the table to add to the feast here and hear what you all have to say about can you honestly say you're competing to win if you look at at the at your approach to life this far? And I don't know, I found it very insightful to contemplate that this week.
Wolfgang,
That's a great question. I mean, that means compete to win. What does it mean for you? For me, it's a very relaxed approach to compete to win. The more I'm relaxed, the better I'm in competition to win. Because if you have stress about being better than somebody, that's your problem.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to be stressed to compete. I'm competing to be the most healthy and relaxed. So I'm competing with you who is more relaxed.
That's a great point. I love that because it highlights the fact we all have different rules to the game.
Yes, I mean, I make a habits quest since 2,370 days. And one thing is the Warren Buffett rule. You define what success means for you. And what I heard from you now when you just brought it up and just the energy was like, competition sounds like tension, and it's not necessarily so.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Great.
it's really interesting because yeah, Mark, you talk about that I coach these young people in a finite game of hockey, but what I do is I teach them a mastery orientation perspective, which is about growth and learning. And I think that a performance-based perspective is really about the outcome, right? And I think that there's a definite difference because I think that if you have an attachment to a finite goal, right? And I should say an over attachment to a finite goal, you will find that when adversity comes calling, you won't have the resilience that you could have because everything that affects that goal happens in the now, it happens in the moment. So by having a kind of a mastery, which again you would call the infinite game, right? Because you start to realize that mastery isn't even that itself is not an outcome, it's a process, right? And that's why at the seventh level, you can create, observe, and experience anything you desire as quickly as you believe possible. Um, a lot of it has to do with the way that we perceive our lives, our goals, our impact in the world. And it really is about the goal that we have is a target. Right? That target can change, but who we're becoming along the way is actually where the goal is. The experience is the goal. However, if we get so attached to a goal, then what will happen is that we won't have when the adversity comes, we won't have the energy to do the action to be able to get there because we'll just think that we're never going to get there. We can't do it, what have you, right? People make excuses, they'll fall into pity parties, they won't do that. But if you realize that the road to mastery is failure, right? Mistakes, errors, all those things are all the pathway to mastery, right? And when you're saying when you're playing the infinite game, it really doesn't, one game doesn't matter because I teach my goalies especially that you can't be defined by one goal, one period, one game, even one season. And the only person that could really truly define who you are is yourself. So I think that it comes down to the internal part again, right? So your own relationship with you. I don't know who was first, Wolfgang or Mark, but each one of you had.
Wolfgang's first. Go ahead, Wolfgang.
You have a quick point. I don't know if you know FC Barcelona, the football team where Messi was playing.
Okay, I've heard of it.
They had they were playing in the 2000s. They were playing like from another planet, and you saw they had fun.
Yeah.
The way they played was coming from lightness. So the real champions, I mean, the champions were really good. I mean, there is champions who play in the times when everybody's just hard, but they played like on another planet. They were playing blind. They just knew where the other one is. And that is what I'm really talking about. I mean, the others were like playing, really competing, but when you're really, really good, it becomes so light and so fun. So it really turns everything upside down, and the others can do what they want because there is the intuition. You just know where everyone is, which comes from the place when you're relaxed. And this is what I'm talking about. And I see it right now. I release all the pressure and people come to me. And this comes, I mean, if you're a tough leader, nobody wants to be with you. Maybe they want your success, but they don't want to be with you. But when there is like the energy and people feel comfortable, and this is really a turning point to release, then people actually really they just want to. And I just wrote my document, and one line in my document is, and I really like this: I am powerful me. I'm radiant and attractive, and people love to be around me. And that creates, I think it can be perceived highly competitive from people who don't have it, because it comes from a energy of, I want that, but that doesn't work. You cannot want that, you can only have that by working towards it, by taking time. And that's what I love about NG and the M3. Just knowing it, trust and building up, it just takes time. It's not possible to get it faster. It's just not possible. It's about to be accepted, rather be fought. So, and to really embrace the journey, to embrace the journey. And Messi is a great example. I mean, he's 38 or something like that. And now he's won the world championships 2 years ago. So it's really more progress over things. There is quite a pressure that we want to have these things early rather than mastering and actually playing in a team. So these are things which are all there. So thank you for listening.
Beautiful, Wolfgang. Beautiful. Yeah, what I wanted to add is I just think these games, these finite games, provide a really, really useful opportunity. Like you mentioned soccer or international football, right? Um, you would never know these characters that you're describing, and you would never see them playing on the field and overcoming adversity and having that effortless lightness without the game. The game itself is the space that's created that allows for us all to go through that process and transcend ourselves, both in thought and being in the present moment and all of that. And Walter, like one of the things that you said to me, and I just transported myself to that place, is that one of the gentlemen you were coaching, he was, in front of whatever, 10, 12, I don't know, 20,000 fans, I don't know. And they were all screaming and cheering at a goal that he just had let in. Right. And they're literally all cheering in joy for his failure, right? And he has to stand there in the present moment, likely broadcasted nationally,
Oh, that was on TV, yeah.
live on TV before the whole world. He has to stand in that failure,
Yeah.
right? And then in his heart be thinking, I love this. I love this. This is the thing. And I think it's not about the game, is what I'm trying to say. It's not about the game, but it is important to play, because through the playing of whatever game, entrepreneurship, international football, soccer, whatever, hockey, these games that we play with each other, they provide an opportunity for us to be refined and for us to be challenged and stretched and measured against our peers, and to learn from others that things are working for them. So we have a method to determine what's working and what's not. And I think the point I also want to add is it also is, and I mentioned this earlier, and I've been reflecting on it a lot this week, because it's very easy to tell yourself you don't want to compete because it might hurt somebody else, because that means somebody else has to lose. And that mindset, I think, is very paralyzing and very cancerous to anybody who's carrying it. And unless we bring awareness to that, they may never really push themselves to get to those moments where they get to stand in front of the 40,000 people and crash and burn and still love it, right? Or have that experience, Wolfgang, that you're describing, where they're light and walking on air, or like Wayne Gretzky said, like time just slowed down, right? He knew where the puck was going to be, right? I think we can all have those moments, and it's through pushing ourselves and stretching to be the best that we get that. And I think that's what I'm really trying to table here, which is, what is your relationship to competition? Do you see it as an exciting opportunity to stretch and grow with others and create a win-win opportunity, or is it somehow taking away from somebody else?
Yeah, I think the thing that I've seen in a lot of the top performers is where they're not as much focused on competing against others, but they're just focused on themselves enjoying what they're doing. Like one of the things is that what I find is I often tell this to my guys, right? Because they get a little bit hard on themselves and they've had a tough game. The first thing I always ask them, was this the norm or is this an exception? This particular game, right? Oh, it's exception. Oh, okay. Oh, so you're learning. Okay, great. These exceptions are all part of your growth. Like you have to have these situations that don't go your way so that you can reflect, adjust, and keep moving forward. And I go, by the way, you're just playing a game. You're not trying to solve a cure for cancer. I go, that's why it's called the game. And I think that one of the things that Wolfgang said that's really profound, I'm experiencing right now, because I have my youngest client right now is 11 years old. He's a 5-sport kid. He's phenomenal at soccer, lacrosse, swimming, water polo, and mountain bike, and he competes in all 5 of them.
Wow.
And when his dad came to me, I said to him, I have a lot of things I could teach your son, but for this year, I just want to teach him how to have fun. And the only thing I'm going to coach at is anything that steals his fun. So whenever I talk to him, right? Hey, hey, what did you play this week, right? And he'll tell me, I go, was there anything that stole your fun? and he'll tell me, and that's what we address. Right. And I said to his dad, because this is the foundation. When I look at older athletes that are struggling, it's because what they're doing isn't fun anymore. Right. And when I see like the guy that we talked about there, he was in Tampa Bay, 19,000 people. Steve Stamkos, one of the top goal scorers in the league, scored 2 power play goals, and the crowd was just going crazy. And he just said, "Wow, I'm in the NHL. This is what I've always wanted to do. This is awesome." And he shut out the team for the next 2 periods, and his team won 3-2. I've also had another guy who had his first NHL game last season. He got blown out like 6-1. And after his interview, you could tell he was just like, he was on the verge of tears because he had such a high expectation of himself. And at that point, he had his worst game ever as a professional. And what's really interesting is that after that, he kind of struggled a bit. And what happened was that it took until it took until I reminded him to have fun again. Because yeah, sometimes it can get a little serious sometimes. And this kid, it can get really serious. Imagine this, 19,000 people watching your every move. He was actually, I think he was on, I don't know if he was on Hockey Night in Canada, but everybody that's ever knew him was watching the game. Everybody, all his coaches from his young, all his parents, his relatives, everybody who he's ever known was watching the game. And he bombed bad to the point that everybody was just, oh, he's not the next guy. He's this or that. Like everybody was starting to write him off over one game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also happens to us when we're endeavoring to do something new in our lives. And one person just says, no, this is a scam, it's a pyramid, whatever. So somebody just has a negative experience. They're projecting their negativity on us. And then all of a sudden it's like, I had an experience with a 16-year-old girl volleyball player. Did the ELI assessment, did everything. I prepared her for her upcoming volleyball tryouts. And then she disengaged for 3 weeks. She didn't want to connect with me anymore. And I talked to the mom, and I realized that my intention has always been to try to connect with young people. We didn't have a connection. So I was stuck with, I had them on a 3-month contract. What do I do? Mom said she's not committed to it. So I just said to mom that right now she's not wanting to get coached. It's okay. I said, I'll leave three of her sessions on just I'll have them here for her when she's ready to coach. You don't have to worry about the other 2 months. I'm not going to commit you to that. And she was blown away that I would do that. And it's because I understand that young people, sometimes her game was she wanted to make 2 club teams, and she's only been playing volleyball for 1 year. Right. And it's no different than people who we try to get into a business opportunity and they think they want to do it and then they don't do it. Right. Then we start to get it. We start to think that there was something that we did wrong. Right. Understanding that the game is also going to involve how we deal when other people don't live up to what they say they want. Right. That's hard. And sometimes we can take it really personal. It's something about me, and I don't take it personal. I still believe I'm one of the top performance coaches in North America, not because I'm great, it's because the people that I work with are great. And I think that whenever I started to get wigged out about the process, I started to remember all the impact that I've had on people. So I think to be able to play the infinite game, to realize that the more we impact people, the better we'll feel about the game. And focus on the influence that we're having on people. Right. And so for me, like I said, it's tough because it's that level 4, level 5 energy, right? So the point that if everybody else is winning, but you put yourself last, you may be in that level 4 energy, which is great for everyone else, but it's also uh and it doesn't mean that you're not winning because you don't want to play the game. It just means that in order for it to be a win-win, I find that I need to elevate my game so that it's a win-win. And I think that that's where the challenge is that sometimes we can get so much about helping other people that we forget that it's okay for us to win too. Like it's okay to have money transactions, right? Because all money transactions are just a value exchange. Mark?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to unpack here, because I think it's such an important part of leadership for first of all to lead ourselves, right? Like the relationship that we have, if it's coming from a level 4, and for those that don't know in the recording or whatever, but level 4 is a self-sacrificing energy. It's an unconditionally loving place that you're coming from. So you're wanting to be of service to others without any concern or regard at all for your own well-being, right? It's a servant leadership heart, right? And I can completely resonate with that. But what Walter, you're talking about here is that transition to level 5 in the competitive spirit, right? Because I think a healthy competition is two people going for a jog and and pushing each other to do their best each time they do that, right? And as entrepreneurs or as leaders or whatever it is that we're doing together as a group, I think we would be doing a disservice to each other if we didn't actually push each other to be the best that we had the potential of being, right? And that requires sometimes brutal honesty, sometimes that requires encouragement, sometimes that requires support. But I'm not competing against you or anybody else. The only person I'm really competing against is myself, the guy I was yesterday, and endeavoring to be a better man tomorrow. Right. And I think, and or right now in the present moment, than I was yesterday. And I think this transitioning from this level 4 to level 5 consciousness, where it's not just about being of service, although yes, whatever it is, but it's also recognizing the value in the present moment of pushing yourself outside of your limits, right? And doing it because you want that stretch, you want that pain, you want to experience failure, right? You want to be that guy or girl that's standing in front of 40,000 people who crashed and burned and had the ability in your heart to say, wow, I did it. I love this, right? And it doesn't matter if you just it was a shutout. Wow, I did it. I love this, right? And I think and actually one last point I just want to make as it relates to this is, I think the value of the game is it gives us the opportunity to crash and burn or succeed, but neither of those two things is really the point. The real point is what you and Walter and Wolfgang are highlighting, which is managing your thought world and your emotional world while you're doing it. That's what I think the high performers master. And I think that's really why I want to discuss this topic for us, because we talk about it every week in leadership.
I know Wolfgang's made a request that either Rayanne or your Gallum or Yanni might have some thoughts on this topic.
Absolutely.
You got to leave in
Jump
about
in.
minutes.
Jump
Okay.
in, ladies.
Rayanne or okay, Ray, what do you got going on?
I think,
Your thoughts?
you know, I've been looking at things sort of like I observe around me. And I do feel very relaxed and everything now. I just kind of, but I kind of observe different leaders, different styles, different, you know, and it's true. And I'm kind of, you know, and then I'm sort of taking the good from all those different things, and but not, I'm not in a rush to how it's all going to come together. I'm just letting, like, I always think of my integrity. I always think of how I can love up on other people. I just keep trying to make myself better as a human being so that I can help them or help people reach that for themselves too. And then also sometimes, like, I have this one girlfriend of mine, you know, she's not seeing all these wonderful attributes that she has, and being a support to other people, um, to help them see that in themselves, and not, you know, whereas I see some people, they're so frantic, oh, you got to do this, you got to do that. And I'm like, no, you know, I just want to do things in a relaxed manner and love up on people, have some fun with it. And when my time is ready that I'm going to blossom, I'm going to blossom. So, you know, I think, you know, I really liked what Wolfgang had to say about just being relaxed and everything. Like when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, I got to get this done now. And it, you know, I'm, you know, but not anymore. I just kind of enjoy, because now I think the artist in me comes out. I'm like, how can I create this or create that? And just enjoying in each person and learning from their styles, and seeing what I would like to adopt from that too, or not adopt, you know? So.
Yeah, just before I get your Gallum or her thoughts on it, I think it's a real um it's a real kind of switch between level 4 and 5, because Rand said something, right? Her level 4 energy says, I want to be, I want to feel better, right? A level 5, I want to feel effective, right? So I think that it's not, you're not any one energy. I know level 5 is more the entrepreneurial mindset, because at level 5 you feel very calm, confident, because you realize that you do have control over your thoughts and your actions, and that no matter what happens, you'll learn and grow from it. I think level 4 is really important because it's a heart center, and it helps us to connect to people, because people really love to feel like they matter. It's not just their money. It's just that they want to feel like they really do matter. They want to feel seen, heard, and have a sense of love and belonging. But I think that if you just stayed in level 5 all the time, everybody may feel like they're just it's an you know, when somebody comes to me with an opportunity, right off the bat, it's an opportunity for them. Um, right? Even that word just triggers me, right? But I think that when somebody comes to me and just is themselves, um, it makes a really big difference, right? Because I think that people want authenticity, but you also need to learn that it's not just about being better, it's about learning to be effective in whatever game you're choosing to play. Your Gallum, what are your thoughts?
So much to unpack. um, so much to unpack, but yeah, so there are so many areas that I felt like, okay, I need to improve here and I'm good here. So the competition language. Because from the beginning, as I travel and look myself back in as a child, I love unity. So for me, from classroom perspective to business opportunity perspective, a community perspective, as soon as I feel another person is being singled out, and it doesn't have to be me, then I get triggered. And I have seen that. And it could be because of their personality. It doesn't have to be a material thing. So because of that's how I feel about competition. And also there was a conversation about people wanting to be accepted and free. Like that's why I love certain calls in our community, because it allows me to be free. And for myself, that's my selfishness actually, because that's what I like. I express that through my drawing. I also used to do it through my writing. And for myself, I know that's very important for me to be accepted, for me to be myself, for me to be free. So because of that, I love to create that space for other people. And I do like to continue to learn. Actually, no, having the value, my values, having my visions, my mission is very important. And I can see them playing to the next path that I want to take it. Because it could be any object or any project that I want to present to the world. If I don't have those things, knowing myself, having these goals, visions, properly set up, I can see a resistance on taking on anything that's going to kind of feel like it's going to manipulate people.
Yeah.
So because of that, for myself, knowing these package about myself and also the people that I like, I want to like everyone, but at the same time, just the energy they give me that allow me to be just like my Neurographica. Because of that, I don't resist. I just want to get to know whatever it is that I want to give to people. So competition, for myself, it has both. And I want to learn actually to get better, because I did say, even on our Monday call, I can see through a high school and, certain areas I could accomplish better, but I can see they hold me or I run away from the project because of that, because I saw a sense of not being, accepted for certain things, or somebody not being accepted. I just love the unity. It's very important for me. But I want to get better at it, because certain things you just, as long as you can understand it from the way you want to serve the world and seeing the good and not project, whatever it is. And if it align with my values, my beliefs, the way I like to show up to the world, then I'm good. If not, guess what? I don't care what it is. I don't want it. That's it. And so, but competition, that's where it is for me.
I have something. Mike, were you going to say something?
I just wanted to ask Gigi a follow-up question on that, and then I had a point, but I'll wait for after you, Walter. But Gigi, the question you said, you saw competition as a separation, and I sort of got a sense like it was, at least what came to my heart when you were saying that, it was almost like people are being separated from others, and that you had a negative. So it was it from like a bullying type thing where somebody's not accepted and therefore they're isolated, and so the winners over there, or is it, the losers over there, or like what do you mean by that separation? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, that's what it is. See, and I see that everywhere, even now level, I see it. Unless you are in this club, you can't, unless you are this level, you can't. It's just for myself, I just don't resonate with that. And that's how I see when it comes to competition. People like to keep certain things secure or prevent for opening the resource for everyone because of like what Walter say, because they have their own interest in it. So, but like he says, and I did say this to you on Monday too, the way a person present to the it could be the same club, right? But the way a person presented, it will make a difference for my system. So like what Walter say, if you come to me and say, hey, Gigi, I got this opportunity. For you, let me just say, I don't feel that way about you. And I'm not saying it in front of you just because you don't have that. But I have met people who will come to me with a hidden agenda, and I already know them. And with that, it could be the same project, and I resist.
Yeah, sorry, Walter, I want to say one more thing here, because what's coming out for me, and this is really interesting, Gigi, you're bringing this up, because in what I think once you're an infant, you're describing to me, or at least this is what I'm hearing, and please correct me if I'm wrong, right? Is you're describing that you're an infinite player. So you want everybody to win, because like when you play the infinite game, right? There's players come and go, right? The objective of the game is really to perpetuate the game, keep it going, and have as many winners in the game as possible, which is kind of the game of life. So it is sort of that acceptance piece,
Yeah.
right? So in other words, you're saying, I don't resonate with finite games, which is a separate type of game. So there's like the infinite game, which is everybody's accepted and everybody wins, or the goal is to have everybody win, I should say, right? Whereas in a finite game, like say entrepreneurship or hockey or whatever, it has very clear, distinct players. There's clear rules. There's clear distinctions between who's winning and losing. And what I'm really trying to highlight in this discussion, or what I really wanted to sort of draw out, is exactly what you're drawing out right now in yourself, which is we're all maybe not consciously aware that we're a finite player and an infinite player. In some areas of our lives, we're playing this infinite game, and that's what resonates with our heart. But in other areas, we choose to get into a triathlon running or whatever to be the best version. Or like, I know you like health and fitness and healthy diet and all the rest of it, right? So that's a way you push yourself in a finite way. And I think
Yeah.
so you're saying you like the infinite game because everybody's included, but when you get into finite games and there's a separator, that triggers
Yeah.
something in you.
So when is the finite game, which is the one, let's just take up one project, right? Yes, I will enjoy it as long as it's going to support my internal self. I believe in, like let's say you come to me, or this whole group come to me, all right, and I'm presenting a project. I'm going to come to you because it worked for me. That's how I'm going to come to you. I'm not going to come to you with the presentation of, first of all, hiding it. And then, first, second, by making you feel like you're going to lose if you don't. So, and that's again, I love the part that you can compete. But at the same time, there is a hidden internal thing for myself. It's just, I want to make sure my value, my beliefs, and the spirit that I go by also aligns. If not, it's out, or I'm out.
Yeah. I think the thing that's also a challenge, and you know what, Ray, I'll let you go first because I've got a point to make, but go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I was just thinking of something. It's interesting, like when I'm at my, my job or my anyway, I'm always helping everybody, the customers, the staff, the whatever. And it's interesting because this week there was this one gal, she's always got an attitude about everything, and she has to, it's like she's leading all the time, even though she's not in charge, sort of thing. And, I'm always helping her all the time. And there was one little thing yesterday. I had to download this QR code thing, and it wasn't going in the web browser or whatever. She's like, oh, well, I haven't had time to look at that till tomorrow. Like, you know what I mean? So right there, she was saying to me, I'm not showing you how I do it, because she's a lot more techie than me. And I thought, even though she's that way, I've helped her so many times, like on other things, right? But the techie things, sometimes I need a little tweak. But I thought, okay, I get where you're coming from, and I thought, that's the thing I don't like in the world. But I thought, me as a person, how I want to be is, even though she was like that, I could take offense to that. And next time she needs my help, I'm not giving it to her. But I don't do that. I say, so now this is a chance for me to grow in when she needs my help, I'm gonna, give it to her and totally not be upset with her, not be like, anyhow, that came up for me. So I just thought I would mention that I felt really good inside. I thought, because you know what? I don't want to be like that. That exactly is what I thought.
Yeah,
You
yeah, I
know?
think the one thing, this ties into what I'm about to read here out of the Warrior of the Light by Paul Coelho. And this is interesting. He says, the warrior of the light sometimes fight with those he loves. The man who defends his friends is never overwhelmed by the storms of life. He is strong enough to come through difficulties and carry on. He does, however, often face challenges from those he is trying to teach the art of the sword. His disciples provoke him into fighting with them, and the warrior demonstrates his abilities with just a few blows. He disarms his students, and harmony returns to a place where they meet. Why do you bother to do that when you are so much better than they are? Asked the traveler. Because in challenging me, what they really want is to talk to me, and this is my way of keeping the dialogue open, replies the warrior. The one thing about whatever game you play, you're going to experience level 2 energy. And learning how to disarm that person's level 2 energy is where the magic happens. Because like you said, it's and challenging me, what they really want is to talk to me. It's my way of keeping the dialogue open. So sometimes when people are the most resistant, we did a whole thing on social intelligence, and how I think it's Benjamin Franklin who went after all his enemies and turned them into his allies. And I think that part of playing the infinite game is turning all those people that normally you would just write off and finding some common ground to agree on and turn them into your allies. Because that energy, that level 2 energy, when that can be changed into a level 5 energy, and if you can influence them to a level 5 energy, you might find they may be your biggest allies. And then I think that we need to not fear level 2 energy. We just need to understand it, because when we understand more, we'll fear less. The reason why we fear things is uncertainty. And quite often, many of us have limiting beliefs about our ability to untangle the web of level 2 energy in our lives with other people. Like, people often say to me, like when I talk to them, is, wow, yeah, I know, if only you could talk to if only I could talk to my wife the way you're sharing with me, that'd be awesome. Right? Well, I tell them the same thing. When I talk to my wife, I I wish I could talk to her the way you talk, right? Because yeah, whenever things are personal, it makes it a little bit more challenging. And in this game, the infinite game is not about taking things personal. It's not about feeling better about yourself. It's about being more effective or less effective. And level 4 energy is important because it keeps us connected to it, connected to people. But level 5 energy keeps us connected to our goal. because we know that we're on the journey. We're either gonna win or we're gonna learn. Because level 5, it's not just about winning. It's really the infinite game is more about growth and learning. And sometimes you're gonna have those people in that level 2 energy. And I think that level 2 energy are the storms of life, right? All the adversity. Marc or Ugalum, whoever went, we're down.
Yeah, I think Joy's work on this is very much based in what you were referring to that Benjamin Franklin did,
Yeah.
right? In that people often were coming from a place of fear and they were locked into that either victim, rescue, or persecutor roles. And they were playing either the infinite game or the finite game with those motivations driven in their heart, because there was this, I think we're culturally and indoctrinated into this idea of winning and losing, right? For good reason. I mean, there's military conflict, there's all sorts of really important aspects of um, playing finite games with finite rules, right? But I think what I love about Simon Sinek's work is it's that transitioning over into infinite games and understanding that how to play a different kind of game, which is what you're talking about and what Joy's talking about, and flipping the joy switch, which is learning the approach that you're playing the game from an infinite perspective is you're a builder. You're building yourself and you're building others, right? You're building your community, you're building your family, etc. You're leading yourself and you're leading others. And then you're innovating, you're evolving yourself and others. And so that infinite game has a built-in perpetual loop of happiness. But the finite games also have real incredible value as well, in the sense that they stretch us and they grow us in specific and unique ways, depending on what our gifts and talents are.
Yeah.
So what I'm really trying to highlight is having a positive attitude about both games, right? And understanding the difference, and ask yourself the question, like, how am I playing the infinite game? Because we're all in the infinite game. But what's my relationship to these finite games that I'm also playing, right? And do I understand the difference between the rules of the finite game and the infinite game, and how to manage my own thoughts and emotions and who I'm being and who I believe myself to be in those different games, right? And if we're understand the game we're playing, and also the other people that we're engaged with, what games they're playing with us,
Yeah.
and what the rules of those games are, and how to have a positive attitude and stretch and grow in it, then I think we're really cooking with gas, right? Because now we can really start to build some momentum, because we can see the value in the finite games. This is an opportunity to stretch and grow and push ourselves and compete and measure in a specific area, but yet we can all still win when that finite game is over.
Well, we've hit the top of the hour, and I'm going to give you Ugalum the last thing here, because we've got to get prepared to get up to Kamloops there, or close to it. And Ugalum, what are your final thoughts on this?
No, I wanted to just also mention that I know it hasn't served me, and I want to shift from that. So, and as I have said to you, Mark, on Monday, the same topic could be discussed by different people, but it would be received differently by the person who's receiving it. So I did say to you, like, can you deliver that because my system can hear you. But if another person presented I know my system reject it. So the same, competition, whatever it is depending who's presenting it. I would love to become better at that because I know it's not helping me, not competing on that environment.
Just your Gallum, what if you change, you'd like to be better at it, I'd like to be more effective at it?
I like to be more effective at it.
how does that feel when you change that?
It sounds like I already have it. Yeah.
Interesting, eh? It's that shift from the level 4 to level 5.
Yeah.
Right? Because as soon as you become more effective at it, it becomes less of your personality trait, right? Less of you, who your Gallum is. Because really, when you think about it, it really comes down to playing the infinite game isn't about what you're doing, it's who you're being. Because out of your being, your actions come, and they have a lot more power. And a lot of my top performers, when they just focus on doing, they hit a place where the doing isn't getting them the result that they want. But when they focus on them, on who they need to be, they end up getting the results they want. Right? It's and same with me. Like I just find that when I'm focusing on doing, then my sense of worth is based on my productivity. When I focus on being, my sense of worth is based on who I'm being. And when I'm being, I'm actually more productive than I am when I'm focusing on doing. Because if you're focusing on doing, if you're not doing, then you're feeling bad about yourself. And if you're doing, you feel good about yourself. But if you focus on being, you realize that there's nothing missing. And any day you can make the shifts that you need to make in order to have the game go your way. That's why that 7th level, right? You can create, observe, and experience anything you desire as quickly as you believe possible, right? Because you're focusing on being. Marc, I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I 100% agree, and that is the interface point between finite games and infinite games, because both the inner world remains the same, whatever game you're playing. I just think that the value of the finite game in these niche circumstances is an opportunity to stretch and grow. And whether we're talking about business or sport or whatever, these measurable indicators actually give us an opportunity to fail, or a better way of putting it is learn from our adversity, right? And that's what I love about hockey and you coaching all these kids. They have a clear and distinct measurable outcome as to whether or not they're making progress every game, every day when they show up to practice, right? And what they bring to the ice every single time. And we all have that same opportunity in our lives every day.
Which is why what I do is I teach them that don't define yourself by a goal, a period, a game, a season. Define yourself by who you're becoming. Right? Because it's in the becoming that we hit mastery. Right? And when you hit mastery, you realize that it's not an outcome, it's actually a process. And the big thing that changes when you hit mastery in whatever game you're playing, it shifts your relationship with uncertainty. And that's where you become literally fearless. And to get into that space is that state of self-transcendence. We have to, as Joe Dispenza says, we have to break the habit of being ourselves. Right? We go from the me to the I. And on that note, have a wonderful, wonderful week, everyone. It's always a pleasure getting deep with everyone here. we're now just make sure you don't jump out too quickly. You'll get, because when you go in deep, you're gonna come out and you get those what was that, if you're diving and you come up too quick?
The
Um,
bends.
yeah, you're gonna get the bends. But yeah, take one thing that you learned today and contemplate on it. Think about it. Look at it from so many different angles, right? And then try to find a way to apply it in your life. See what happens. I always say, let's be skeptical of each other, not critical, right? Let's be curious about what each of us is saying and see if it's true for us. Take care,
Amen,
everyone.
brother.
Bye for
Thank
now.
you.
Bye now.
Have fun over the weekend.
Yeah.